drivers are somewhat emotional after an accident and are signing papers. They're not sure what they're signing, they're not reading what they're signing, and that's where the problem begins.
There are predators on the roads looking to make you a victim. Tonight we're finding out how to protect yourself from tow truck scam artists. Plus, it's Valentine's Day chaos in this local lobby. We're going inside one of February 14th's most visited workplaces. And the high doses of caffeine and energy drinks could be extremely dangerous for your kids. Tonight, doctors have a new warning about some potentially deadly problems.
Taking action for you. This is WMBD 31 News at 10.
Good evening. Bob Larson is off tonight. Potholes are popping up everywhere, and if you hit one, you might need to be towed. But experts say some tow truck operators are taking advantage of stranded drivers, patrolling the roads looking for victims. Tonight, we're finding out how it could cost you in this special report. Last July, Nancy Dempsey's son was in a 3-car pileup. He wasn't hurt, but his car was a wreck.
Upon arriving, I said, "Who are all these people? Were they all involved in the accident?" And he said, "No, Mom, they're all tow truck drivers."
At least 5 were on the scene. The problem? Nancy says that not one was called by law enforcement or roadside assistance. They're known as private or unauthorized tow trucks. While many are ethical and legitimate, Frank Scafidi with the National Insurance Crime Bureau says there are also plenty of cheats. Scafidi says they patrol the roads and listen to police scanners searching for broken down motorists.
And then convince the driver that they need to take their vehicle to their yard or to their storage facility. And usually drivers are somewhat emotional after an accident and are signing papers. They're not sure what they're signing, they're not reading what they're signing, and that's where the problem begins.
That's because these tow companies may end up charging astronomical fees, leaving drivers paying hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Scafidi says this costly problem is on the rise from coast to coast. He's got plenty of advice, both anecdotal from investigators and hard data from member insurance companies.
We saw, when we compared the third quarter of 2010 with the third quarter of 2009 and 2008, a steady increase in inflated towing or storage bills, repair shop irregularities.
A 103% increase to be exact. Allstate Insurance was so concerned it put out a nationwide consumer alert and warns that oftentimes the basic tow charge is just the beginning. Storage fees can also be sky high.
They'll charge you administrative fees for all that processing. There's even been known cases of tow facilities charging for CPR services purportedly rendered to the consumer at the scene.
We tried contacting the Towing and Recovery Association of America. It did not respond. Nancy says she was definitely taken for a ride. Not only was her son's bill packed with storage and cleanup fees,
They told him they would not accept a credit card to pay for his car, and they wanted $415 in cash from him.
Scafidi says the part of the problem is tow truck regulation.
By and large, it's deferred to the states, and every state has, some states are very good about it and others not so good. Without effective regulation or legislation, you're going to have a good atmosphere for exploitation.
How do you put the brakes on possible exploitation? Allstate says ask the tow truck driver on the scene for a printed price list. Make sure any documents provided match the signage on the truck, and when it's time to sign,
make sure that it's right next to any dollar amount, not leaving any space for any additional addition of charges.
Finally, when possible, use a tow truck operator vetted by local police, your insurance company, or a motor club.
There'll be set pricing, so there'll be no surprises to you when you go pick up your vehicle.
In the end, Nancy's son paid up, then called his motor club to tow the car away for free.
We never assumed that we were going to incur the costs that were there. I never realized that this is basically like a highway robbery.
Another side effect of inflated towing bills: when insurance companies are forced to pay, premiums go up as a result. The NICB continues to work with its members and local law enforcement to crack down on these type of situations. Well, Bloomington police say they have a man in custody for robbing 12 businesses in the Twin Cities. Lawrence Artis was arrested on January 29th on a $100,000 McLean County warrant and is facing 12 counts of burglary. All the alleged burglaries were committed in January. Bloomington police spokesman Dave White says arresting Artis was truly a team effort. A Bloomington City Council approves tonight forming a task force to combat overserving and overcrowding in downtown Bloomington. Some council members say too many liquor licenses are being granted in the area, and bar owners say business is getting too competitive. The task force will be formed by the end of the month. The council wants a report back by June. Meantime, the council has decided to hold off on filling the vacant Ward 3 seat. Mumboka Mwilhambwe is being recommended to replace Kevin Hetty. Hetty resigned earlier this year after moving. Mayor Steve Stockton chose Mwilhambwe from a field of 8 applicants. He currently works at ISU's Housing Services. If approved, he will serve the remainder of Hetty's term for the next 26 months. Pekin City Council members are starting to work on the city's 2012 budget tonight. Interim City Manager Frank McAman presented the plan. His numbers show the city is in pretty good shape financially, with only a slight deficit that needs to be addressed. Still, that deficit means changes could be on the horizon for Pekin residents.
So one potential solution to addressing the deficit would be to consider enacting what we call a garbage fee. That's the big driver of the deficit in the general fund.
The Pekin City Council will meet again on the 22nd, and council members will discuss the budget in detail and look at options for filling the budget gap, but no official measures will be voted on during that meeting. Reaction is pouring in tonight from Capitol Hill to President Obama's 2012 budget proposal. The White House says the plan shows fiscal responsibility, but Republicans and even Democrats are saying it doesn't go far enough to cut the nation's mounting debt. Joel Brown has more.
The White House delivered the president's $3.7 trillion budget to Congress, saying it makes tough choices. Republicans say not tough enough.
It would be better doing nothing than if we would actually pass this budget.
The president says his plan reduces the deficit by $1.1 trillion over the next 10 years, with an $80 billion cut at the Pentagon and a 5-year freeze on domestic spending. Some Democrats say cutting much deeper than that will only hurt the economy, not help.
You don't take a meat axe to this economy and cut things just for the sake of telling the American people you met a certain number.
But the numbers are only getting bigger. The White House is predicting a record high $1.65 trillion deficit this year.
The president punted on the budget, and he punted on the deficit and on the debt. That's not leadership.
The president's budget for next year comes as House Republicans are trying to slash spending this year by $100 billion, taking on programs the president wants to give more money to, like infrastructure and education. The president showed his commitment to funding schools by pitching his budget plan in a classroom near Baltimore.
We have a responsibility to invest in those areas that will have the biggest impact in our future.
Both sides agree painful cuts are needed, but there's no agreement on what to cut. Senators from both parties are working on a compromise to bridge those differences. Joel Brown, CBS News, Washington.
Both the House and Senate budget committees will hold hearings on the proposal tomorrow. McLean County's largest employer is feeling the love this Valentine's Day. This time-lapse video shows how many flowers fill the lobby at State Farm's corporate headquarters in Bloomington. State Farm Insurance is one of the most popular stops for deliveries. It gets so busy that setup began last Thursday. All the bouquets and balloons are dropped off and alphabetized by name. Receptionists then call each employee who has something waiting for them. Sometimes those people are caught off guard.
I got a phone call from the receptionist that I have flowers down here to be picked up. And I said, for me? And she said, yes, for you. And I said, well, that's truly a mistake because I never get flowers.
State Farm's corporate headquarters handled 300 deliveries today. That's up from 250 last year. Valentine's Day is a day flooded with I-dos in Peoria County, and dozens of couples made it official today at the courthouse. But numbers are showing a drop in marriage over the past years. The U.S. Census Bureau says in 2010, 54% of adults were married. That's down from 72% in 1970. And in a CBS News poll, 7 out of 10 Americans say the institution of marriage is weaker now than it was 20 years ago. Still, one couple is holding strong.
Spending our life together, having fun, living a long, happy life.
I've already been through quite a bit, so
if it's not going to work, that'll be very strange.
The newlyweds say they think the key to staying together is to support each other through everything. Energy drinks are popular among kids, but new information shows they could be deadly. What parents need to know coming up. And the high school golf coach of DA Point says the Pekin natives' timing is perfect. Kurt explains ahead in sports.